a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm really pleased today to welcome to the show Hailey Adler. Sorry, Hailey. Welcome.
It's all good. Hi, thank you for having me, Nancy. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, it's nice that you could do this with me. I really appreciate that, and I apologize for listen, lately I don't sleep well and it's getting worse. So I'm having problems with my brain a little bit. Now, I know that you're a drag queen, correct?
Yep.
Although you were saying that, is it okay if we talk about the fact that you're not in drag at the moment? And
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I've got a few eye issues. I have something called blepharitis, which is like dandruff for the eye. It flares up quite randomly and quite fast. Mm-hmm. So if I wake up and my eyes are even a little bit sore or a little bit sticky or something going on, if I put makeup near it, it tends to react really badly and I can end up with an infection for about a week.
Oh.
So I try not to, if I can't get it to kind of calm down quickly,
yeah,
I generally try not to wear makeup for that day, or if I absolutely have to because I have an event,
right?
I have like a show or something. I'm like I try to do my eyeliner just a bit outside my eye.
Right.
So I can wear makeup still, but not have it close to my eye where it might freak out, but it will still freak out. By the end of that day, I'm still in quite a bit of pain. And usually my eye is quite red.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I take good care of my eyes. I'm also a type 1 diabetic, so I take care of my health quite a bit and I make sure I'm on top of things. So
right.
When things go south, I tend to be pretty honest about it and just be like, yeah, my eye is bad and it's not cooperating. Right. I mean, there's a picture on my Instagram, like the Hailey Adler, where you can see I'm in drag and my eye is like super puffy.
Oh.
And I have people comment on it still randomly today. They'll be like, why is your eye so red? And it's like, I can like see my eye telling me that it's like, you're gonna be with a clop on me for about a week now. And it's like, yep. Yeah. And I remember that week. I never had to miss a couple days of hair school because of it. I was like, yeah, I can't see. And they're like, well, you have to be here. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's cutting hair. I need to see to that. I need to see for that.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get back to the hair reminder. We'll get back to the hair in a minute. But I just want to talk about the fact that first time I saw you was at a school, a dance for some young children, right?
Oh, yes, the one in February.
Yes, and it was so fantastic because I watched when you were up performing, dancing, those young people all around you, just enjoying it and dancing with you and having such a great time. And I loved it. I think it was.
Me too.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to be able to volunteer there. And when those young people are coming in and the way they're dressed, and I'm thinking, oh, how beautiful this is to see young people feel free to be who they wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it warms my heart to see kids dress so flamboyantly and out there, or even butch if it's a woman, like because like they want to be more like in a button-up t-shirt. It's totally acceptable. It's just fabric. Yeah. And the fact that there's like, I remember being bullied for wearing, like I wore a tutu to school because I was like, just didn't care. And I got bullied for it. And I said, you think your words hurt me? I said, do you think I would wear this if I weren't not hurt by your words? And the bullies just stopped. Because there's not one, when they have no power over you, I said, your words are just words. And I said, I'm going to go live in real life and I'll be something and I'll see you working at the McDonald's. And guess what? They work at McDonald's.
That is so cool. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, they're not even the manager. They're just one of the older people who work the door. And you're like, oh, sweetie, you peaked in high school. It was really fun being a captain of something, wasn't it? Now you're not even a manager of a McDonald's.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting when you think about it, how somebody decides that boys should wear this and girls should wear that. It was like, how stupid when you think about it, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it's like the funniest thing is when people try to say, well, blue is boy color and pink is girl. And it's like I always thought it was really funny because my grandma was a hippie in the 60s and she would tell me they switched it. she'd outright just be blunt about it. She's like, it used to be pink for the boys and blue for the girls. And then someone up and decided no other way, and now everyone's like, this is the staple we die on. It's like, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like, it makes zero sense for an argument for them to be like, no, what, 60 years ago, someone just said, let's change it up. Yeah, it's boring. Let's just switch it up. And now it's like, this is the rock people will argue to die on. Is that like pink is a girl color? It's like, my hair is pink. My nails are usually pink. They are not right now. And guess what? My insides are pink.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Right? Like, they all get they're so fragile about a color or about the idea of what the color represents. And then they're like, I'm so strong. And it's like, sweetie, you're crying about a color because it's not what you imagine it to be.
Who like defined that? Yeah.
Yeah, who's defining it, and who's letting it get this bad? Like, I mean, I am a pacifist. I don't believe in violence. I've never been in a fight myself. I would want to be in a fight, but I don't believe, if we just keep smiling, we'll win is gonna work in this society where the like what's happening in the world. It's like the fight wasn't over. We were almost over. The fight was almost done, and then we decided that we no longer need to push, and then now we're here again.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel bad. Like, we have so much progression. We have so much coming forward because there is more of us now. There are more of us vocal. There are more of us out. There are more of us trying to make a change.
Yeah.
Than them. Not that there is physically more of us. It's just more of us are being vocal now.
Sure. Yeah.
But even that, it's like, we need to push harder. We need to fight louder. We need to be in their faces. Like, and that's why I say, when I see hate for my events, the only thing I say to them is thank you, because you're proving to me and everyone around you that we need more of these things to prove you guys need to go away. And they're like, and it's like, yeah, actually, see, and what I love is I call myself douchebag repellent. Because if you have me at your venue, guess who's not showing up?
Yeah, right.
The anti-maskers, the anti-vaxxers, the D-bags, the racists, the homophobes, the transphobes, because they're like, I'm going to boycott your show. And I'm like, thank you, you're not invited.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not invited? And it's like, yeah, you're not. Don't show up. Please don't buy a ticket. I won't refund you. Then they're like, well, how dare you? And I'm like, a refund is a choice, not a demand. So if you're going to buy a ticket to spite me that I have to give you a refund, guess what? You refund declined.
It's interesting because yesterday I interviewed Megan Bokhorst. Is that how you pronounce her name? Bokhorst. She's Pride, Parade, and Hope, and we were discussing some of these same things. Like, I'm a heterosexual female. I'm in my 70s, and I know a lot of people my age just don't get it, but I don't understand that. What your lifestyle, who you are, whatever it is, doesn't change my life at all, right? So there's no reason for me to hate on you. It makes no sense to me. So I try to talk to these people, but it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, you'd have better luck to drill through a cement brick and it never break than to actually penetrate these people's minds, because they refuse to believe anything they don't want to believe. It's not even that they don't want to believe in it either. It's that they refuse to believe in anything that can slightly differ their perspective or point of view. And that's a scary thought, because a human being, our whole life experience is growing and learning and changing. Mm-hmm. That's how humans make it to the end. When you don't change and you don't, reposition yourself, that's how you die. And that's how you die in military. That's how you die in that's how someone will die in a surgery. If you don't adjust what you need to do to get to the end, you'll die or you will not make it. Yeah. And there's a whole group of people right now that believe I can't change and I can never change and I can never accept anything I don't believe in when I was born. And it's like, okay, you've already changed a lot from that. So it just proves their arguments is void and stupid.
Yes.
But they tend to fixate on the worst parts of themselves
Yeah.
and heighten all of those things, and then go on about how they're so strong while being fragile, and
Yeah.
how they're unaffected by emotions will now break down when their team loses the Stanley Cup. Like, right? Like, let's point out the riots for a second. From the Canuck riots, all these heteros are like, they're gay, they're so fragile. And then it's like, really? Really? Because we've hosted a pride event every year and we have never destroyed Vancouver. Never.
Oh, yes,
But
exactly.
but there's been 2 times the Stanley Cup has an opportunity to be won while they're in Vancouver. And oh my God, both times the cis het fragiles have literally destroyed the city.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been years my favorite Brew Girl doesn't win, and I go, oh, good for her. End of story.
Yeah.
There's going to be a new competition next year.
Yeah.
Like, you move on. Your team doesn't win. Oh, that sucks. Good for the other 20, or I don't know how many people are on sports team. Good for those other guys. Like, just be happy someone won and you got to enjoy the sports event or the show. These people pretend that they're so strong when they're like shaking in their fragile boots that someone exists and is alive.
Yeah, it just, there's no understanding it, I don't think. At least I can't wrap my brain around those things. I mean, I get a little confused with the terminology, some of the new terminology that, like, new to me, right? Like non-binary and panamorous and those things. So I'm learning, right? I'm learning and I'm open to learning, but and I don't understand why people, like, a lot of people fear, like they're afraid to change. They're afraid to look at, if somebody who met you, say, for the first time, whether you are you the way you are now, or when you're all in drag, and just sat and spoke with you, and they would realize, well, maybe you have things in common, maybe you both.
Well, we would.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why wouldn't you, right? But people are afraid to do that. And this is my goal. Like, I have a zillion goals, but one of them is why I interview everybody and anybody, because I want people to accepting others, to hear you talk as much as, like, the mayor's been on my show, for instance, like, why not speak with everybody and get to know who they are? And that's okay.
I love that.
Thank you. That's okay.
I love that.
Now, changing the topic a little bit, because I know you're very popular as a drag queen.
In town here, yes, I'm quite popular. I try to push for a lot of inclusive events. I try to make sure we've got events happening for everybody, even if I'm not in charge of hosting the event or said event. Like, I still say we should get a bowling night going at the Chili Bowl or something. Just get like a queer bowling night. Like, we just make a couple posts about it and say, like, we're all just gonna meet here and have a good time, maybe have some drinks and chat as a community, just get to know each other. Like, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, and as I say, no one makes money off it. It's just an event to get to know each other in the community. And like, it's stuff like that I love. Like, I do an event at the Queer Cafe, and it's this really small event, but it's just community building. Like, it's just for getting together and hearing other people's voices and learning from others and talking. And you see youth show up and they are talking to older LGBTQ members and trans people who are my age, and they're trans, and they're just wanting to, talk and see what life is like from an adult's perspective, going through what they went through in a different time. And it's like, I'm almost crying just talking about it now. Like, it's so beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful. It's such a unique gem we have.
Yeah.
And to be able to, like, talk on a level to the youth, to each other, it's amazing. Like, and I feel so often people really think that, it's just some kids showing up, or it's just some, like, gays that don't want to drink. And it's like, no. And or just some people that want to just have a cup of coffee and mellow out. No, like, there are full discussions happening about things in the community, things in the world, things that are happening in the States. Like, these kids are so smart and they see what's going on around them. They are not stupid. And to pretend like these kids are idiots so that we should, completely protect them from the reality. It's like, they've got the internet in their hands. They all have a cell phone. They all have TikTok. They all know what's out there. My biggest thing is, I just tell them to be safe. I'm like, don't do anything stupid. Don't don't go get into someone's car. Like, just don't do it. And I make sure to push that message on them. And I think one reason religious people really hate me is I am someone who says, if your pastor touches you, you tell someone. And that makes the churches afraid because they're like, oh my God, this drag queen's going to rat us out. And I'm like, yes, I will bury your church. Because if you're going to touch a kid in the hood of religion,
Yes.
oh, you bet you should be publicly flogged. And that is something I do agree with for that punishment, for that in particular thing. It shouldn't be jail. It should be publicly flogged. If you're going to touch a child, you deserve to be publicly ridiculed and beaten. And I do not agree in violence, except for this.
Yeah, listen,
this is the like.
I couldn't agree more. I grew up.
It's like the sick.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's one of the sickest things in the world that people even touch children that way. It's disgusting.
I grew up in a Catholic church, and we all know what. Well, I mean, I don't belong. It's been a zillion years, but we all know what some of those priests did. Like, hello, it's all out there now. You can't pretend it didn't happen. But I do know people who said, "Oh, my priest would never do that." And I said to them, "You think they're going to tell you?" I'm like, "Hello, you don't know what's going on unless you know every kid in that church and spoke to every kid." Anyway. Change the topic again.
Yeah.
We could go on those topics forever, but I want to know more about you. Like you mentioned cutting hair. So tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a hairdresser by day in a way. I used to do it more when I had a lot more free time, but now sewing has taken up most of my time with making costumes.
Okay.
But I do love hairdressing. I call myself a colorist more than a hairdresser.
Right.
Like I'm really good with colors. I'm really good with I know my colors. I mean, I dress in like 15 of them all the time. I'm always in lots of colors, but I generally call myself a colorist over a hairdresser just because I'm really good with colors. I'm good with cuts too, but I'm really good at colors. That's more my specialty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do. I've done hairdressing for about 8 years now. 8 years.
Very good.
And I'm 30, so I can finally be taken seriously now.
Gosh. Oh, listen, don't be serious though. Take responsibility.
No, I mean, as a hairdresser, I can be taken seriously.
Sorry.
They never take you seriously when you're 29. They're like, oh, there's a 2 in front of you. And I'm like, I've done this for 8 years. And they're like, oh, but there's a 2. This girl's 31. She's been doing it for 3 years. Yeah, but there's a 3 in front of her name.
Oh my God.
I've literally had that argument with actual people. And I'm like, okay, well, come back to me for your repair then. Yeah. And they do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sorry. Like, I told you, I didn't tell you she was bad. I just said, why go to her? Okay. Like,
I can relate in a kind of a weird sort of way. I'm very short, and sometimes I go to a store and where there's a high counter, like these counters up to here, and I often get like somebody, they don't look down. They'll look and want to serve the person behind me. Like, hello, I'm here. It's
I remember when I met you too. I was in drag, so you were only like here on me. I think like you're shorter than my boob height, which is like I have one of my mom's friends is like that. I hug her and she just fits under my boobs, and I'm like, hey, Heidi.
Nice little pat on the head. Now you mentioned costume, so yeah, I'm assuming now then from that you make your own costumes, right?
Yeah, I do a lot of my own costumes. I mean, when I was new to drag, I didn't know how to sew, so I bought from stores and edited things or added things. But during the pandemic, I had a sewing machine my mom bought me a couple years ago for Christmas because she knew I wanted to get into it. I sat that thing on a table for probably like 2 years and just stared at it and was like, damn, and one day I'll figure out how to turn you on. And I really didn't. A friend of mine showed me, was like, here, this is the on button, the one that says on. I'm like, okay, good to know. And then he's like, he just read it like this. And I'm like, can you like do that at like 1/18th that speed and show me again? And then he's just like, oh yeah, it's super easy. Drop down, hook, whoop down, hoot you in. I'm like, okay, can you drop that to about half speed now? And like, I think he showed me like 3 or 4 more times, and I'm like, okay, I think I get it. And then he's like, do it, and I'll guide you through it. And then once he kind of made me do it a couple times, I got it. Now I just whip through it myself. But like, I'm someone who learns when you show me. It's really hard for me to like follow a step thing where it's like step one, step two. I need someone to like show me all the actions. I came from a dance background too, so that kind of makes sense for me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, when she showed me it, I was like, okay, now I get it. I mean, I made some costumes out of some cheap thread that I bought from like Amazon, a pack of like 28 for like $10. This thread was not good. So a lot of those costumes are falling apart, which makes me sad, but they were my first costumes. And I mean, I see mistakes on them that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't do that anymore. It's like, oh, I wouldn't do that anymore. Oh, why is the crotch twisted? And like, this weird things, and I'm like, oh, I've made mistakes on those. And like, but now like when I finish a costume, I've got a couple drag daughters too. Like they're like, oh my God, how do you whip that out in 2 days? And I'm just like, oh, practice. Like it's 2 days of like 12 hours, but like it'll be a done costume. All the hems will be done, all the edges will be done. There'll be pieces that are really artsy, there'll be pieces that are more laid back. And then I go, oh, and next is stoning.
Right. Yeah.
And then that's a whole other day.
I want to ask, what is it about dressing in drag that you really like?
It's really hard to explain that one. It's kind of a bigger explanation. I know I talk a lot and everything. But with this one, it's a complex explanation because like drag for me, it was never like I'm gonna be a drag queen. I always knew when I was young in dance, I was going to be on stage. I just knew that. Like, it wasn't like I thought it, I knew it. Like, and people around me said the same thing. They're like, we all want to be on stage, and we all, like, some of us are probably going to, but they're like, but you are. And I was like, how do you know? And I'm like, I want that so bad. But I wasn't in the big dance classes because I started later. I was in the more laid back ones. But I pushed and pushed and pushed to be seen at it, even close to a level as those people. And near the end of my dance class years, I got really close and I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And like people I went to school with then were like, they told me, they're like, you'll be on stage. They're like, we don't know what you'll be doing, but you'll be on stage. We just know that. And when I found drag, it wasn't even like I thought that's my answer either. It was like, it was kind of an accident. It was like, my friend was doing a photo shoot for her grade 11 art class or something, and I was in grade 12. And she's like, oh, supposed to do weird lighting. So you take a lamp and you like aim it down or up, or like you take weird lighting and weird shadows and stuff. And they're going to make a negative picture. And I was like, okay. And she's like, let's put you in drag. It'll be fun. And I was like, okay. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no makeup skills. My friend did not have makeup skills either. She was one of the girls who never wore makeup. So she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so we put on some like red lipstick. I got the cheapest blonde wig I could from the Value Village at Halloween. And I found a dress that could fit me, but it had like safety pins up the side. Like I bought it with the safety pins in it. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it.
Yeah.
I made sure to take the pictures from this side. Safety pins were hidden away. Like we did this thing with a lamp and she like took it like below and to one side and there was a heavy shadow on my face. And it looked really cool. I mean, I didn't look feminine. It was very much just my face in a wig.
Right.
But then when the negative picture came through, you couldn't really tell the gender anymore. Like it wasn't definitively my face. It was just someone with long hair. And then they had to do these negatives and cover them in dark paper and cover the light stuff in light paper. So it made this like really weird paper contrasting thing. And then they had to put them in the school in Sardis. And I was someone who helped out with the Pro D days. Like they get students sometimes to help with those. So I was helping out. And I heard one of the moms whose kid I danced with stare at my picture and talk about how that woman looks so beautiful and how the lighting is so interesting on her face. And I stood right beside her when she was saying this. And I was just like, I'm like, oh, you think she's pretty? And they're like, yeah. And I'm just like, that's me. And I just walked away. And I just like literally left. And she talked to me later that night because I drove her daughter home too, because we danced together and I had my license and she she had a younger brother, my aunt's friend, so her mom would like put him in bed, put the kid in bed, and then come get her, and then come home and sneak in. So I was like, I could just drop her off, like it's literally down the road, like
Nice.
stop, like. And she offered me gas money, and I'm like, you're literally like around the corner, like stop, like not a big deal.
But it
But
was nice that she offered.
yeah, it was really nice that she offered. And sometimes I'd find $5 in my truck if I left my crack my
Oh,
window open. I'm pretty sure it was the mom. I'm pretty sure it was her. I still don't know where it came from. It would just be sitting on my desk or sitting on like my seat, and I'd be like, I left my window open a crack. And it's like, I thought that was always funny.
bonus.
Yeah, but that's kind of bonus. That was how I did drag the first time, was that. And I did Halloween later that next year or something. I dressed up and just went trick-or-treating just some houses that I knew the parents or knew the people, and did a couple I didn't, and some old guy laughed, not in a bad way. And like I spoke, and he was like, oh my God. He's like, I thought you were a woman. He's like, can I get my wife? Can you do it again? And I'm like, yeah. And like he's like, just do it again. And I was like, okay. My wife's like, what? And I'm like, trick or treat. And she's like, oh my God, your voice. She's like, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm just like, oh my God, they were hilarious. I loved them. I'll never forget that. Like, that was like the weirdest interaction for a first time in like outside drag. Like, and so because of that, I'm labeled as a Halloween queen because I started on Halloween. But I'm also a political queen because I do go to protest and drag, and I do stand up, and I do try to be as many things as I can, even though it is hard sometimes because I feel like, oh my God, there's so many things and there's so little time in a day.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I agree with you. Like, we all, I think in life we should fill it with as much as we can, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so wonderful when you do that. I just love that. For me, it's like talking to people, like with you, and as you're talking, it's like, oh, wait a minute, you do hair, you dancer. You make your own clothes, and of course now you're a makeup artist, obviously, right? Because you have to do makeup, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, so many different talents all packed into one body. That is so cool.
Thank you. I always say, like, drag queens we're makeup artists, we're sewers, we're theatrical, we're professional improvers, we're dancers, we're political activists, we're even rhinestoners, we're bejewelers is the weirdest one, and like, but we're also actors, and like we're all these things rolled into one, and it becomes the character that we kind of build around all these things. Like, I mean, not everyone has all the skills either. There are some people who can't see well, so they don't sew.
Yeah.
Some people just don't have that brain either. Like, I was the kid who you could give a box of Lego to, and I'd build a house. Like, I just knew how to do that as a kid. Like, I know friends who were like, you give them a box of Lego, and they're like, I need instructions. And I'm like, oh, sweetie, you just put things together until it makes something. Like,
yeah. I think sometimes people too are afraid to try something new with their hands, like 2 years ago, I started painting. Never did it before, and it's like, oh, this is fun. Oh, this is cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's great, and I think, again, that's why I talk to people, it's like, hopefully my viewers will watch this whole interview, and it's just like people that have never spoken to somebody who does drag, or just listen and just find out what an interesting person you are. That's what it's all about.
And I mean, I always try to talk to people on a level too. Like, I've done cashier jobs and stuff, so I understand customer service to a degree. Like, I say to a degree. I come from a roofing background. Like, my dad's the seller. He sells roofing.
Okay.
So he would call me the apple pie guy when he'd bring me to work, because you'd send the little boy in to sweet talk the old ladies first. My dad would take me to work on Pro-D days because childcare wasn't really affordable, and like my parents both worked jobs, and so I went to work on Pro-D days, and I was really young with my dad. So the apple pie guy is what I was called. And it would just be like, I go in and sweet talk the old ladies, and be like, my dad's gonna be roofing your house. Like, I mean, I was like 6 or 7, like talking about like what I know what my dad's about to do on their roof, and like I do know, but like I shouldn't, but I do.
You do, yeah.
I mean, I was on a roof at a young age. That's the shocking part. I come from a roofing background. I have roof houses in this town.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, I know how to roof a house. It's not something I do anymore because I do drag and I do more other like more feminine things. And there is quite a toxic masculinity within roofing itself, but that's not really neither here nor there. That's just something that exists in construction.
Right. Well, I just got to notice that we're going to run out of time soon. Do you have, yeah, other than the what's coming up in Hope, so that's going to be that interview is going to air tomorrow. But do you have something coming up other than that?
Yeah, I have. I actually have a couple of things coming up. I've got on June 1st. We have the Chilliwack. It's the Pride Month drag show for June being World Pride Month, and then I have a part 2 on June 9th at Bricklayer Brewing. Part 1 is at Corky's Irish Pub. June 1st from 8:30 to 11, and part 2 is June 9th at Bricklayer Brewing, and that one is from 6 to 10. Yeah, the show doors open at 6, show starts at 7, show goes to about 10. Hang around for pictures till about 11.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'm going to end it there, but stay on camera. Just want to thank everybody for watching, and I hope you enjoyed listening and hearing about Kyle and what he does. And you know, if you ever see him and you've never spoken to him before, and if he's not busy, take a chance and talk to him. You might enjoy it. So thanks for watching the show, everybody. Take care and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.